Welcome back to the Whatnauts Reactor Core number 93. My name is Kyle Springer, and I am joined by Melissa Wilkinson. Melissa, how are you?
Hello. I'm doing okay. 93 already. We're getting up there.
Yeah, we are. We're working our way up there. On that note, just a quick thing for people to keep an eye out for episode 100, which is coming up real soon. We don't know exactly when it's gonna hit yet, but keep an eye out because we want to do something special for episode 100. But that being said, here and now, we are here to talk about Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. I'm excited to dive into this one. We'll have some spoiler-free thoughts here at the start, but then after that, we will get into spoilers and start breaking down the movie. My weekend has been good. I still don't know what you thought of this because you saw it just yesterday, and I saw it like the first night it came out on Wednesday. But I've been waiting for more people to kind of get their thoughts out there so I can be like, all right, I can start talking about this too. Yeah, right. Yeah. But it was good. I had a blast watching this movie. One of my most anticipated of the year, I believe.
Yeah.
This was a lot of fun. I do have to say, did not live up to my expectations. That's not the right thing. My experience seeing the first one. I had such a magical experience seeing the first Black Panther that I think will be one of like the highlights of my lifetime. Just a great experience in the theater, being like one of the only white people there. We had to wait in line. While we were waiting in line, people were singing and dancing. They were in all kinds of like African garb and stuff. This time, since I have moved away from the location that I was in from that one, I'm in a new place and just not the same vibes, which was not as fun, but still had a great time with this one. Well, what about you?
I had a very good time seeing it. My tradition is to see movies on a Saturday morning. We saw this at about 12:15, and that can be a quieter time at the movie theater we go to. It's one of the reasons why we pick Saturday mornings. There's a good crowd. We sat in front of like a whole row of a family. There's one guy who had some very big laughs throughout the film, and I was very happy for him.
That's good. So yeah, that's good. I'm glad you had a blast. What did you think? That's my next big question is what were your thoughts on the movie itself?
It's impressive. It's beautiful. It was a very satisfying experience. I don't think it really blew my mind or broke me in any way. I wonder if I had a milder experience with this film than some other people did.
Sure.
I did thoroughly enjoyed it. It really did check the boxes of everything I wanted to see. Truly an exemplary piece of work.
I gotcha. Yeah. It's I think I felt kind of the same way. I went into this with very, very high expectations. And I think for the most part it held up. Like it was very, very good. I liked the action. I think emotions were high going into this. I do think this is a very emotional film.
Yes.
But I think because my expectations was like, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to cry my eyes out, all that stuff. I don't think it was as emotional as I was expecting. It still is, and in the right places. I was just expecting to cry more than I did in
yes,
this.
Me too. But I know that's super personal. Like everybody's experience varies. Like I got teared up, but I'll say, without saying anything more, that it wasn't until the post-credit scene that I really cried.
Interesting. For me, it was the start. It was the like opening Marvel like logo. Is that the right word?
Yeah,
They're like opening
it is a logo.
Animatic. I mean, it's the logo, but it's not just like a static. It's like an animatic. It's an animation.
I call it like I typically call it a fanfare. But I think the fanfare refers to the music, and there was no music. You sit quietly with your thoughts.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was the thing that like got me right at the start, because it's all pictures and clips and stuff of Chadwick Boseman in that like MCU logo, the animation fanfare thing that they do, but it's silent. It's just it's a moment of silence for him there, and it was just like, oh, I'm so sad.
And I know. At that time, Disney Plus changed the opening Marvel logo on Black Panther on its streaming service to those visuals, but I don't remember if it was silent then. I just rewatched Black Panther last week, but it's back to the normal Marvel opening that it would have been at that time. I think maybe they used the Chadwick tribute just as for a limited time. I don't know how long. Since I watched this movie like summer 2020, and then now I don't know when they turned it off. But yeah, they had that. I think this same tribute visual they had playing in front of Black Panther for a while. But yeah, the silence is very effective. This movie made so many good choices. Like I came out of the movie saying, like, this did not blow my mind in any way, not like the trailer did. That trailer was such an incredible moment. I don't think I felt on the same level about the movie as I did about the trailer. Like, it's still very, very good, but it wasn't like, I didn't feel like I was reeling from anything after the end of it. But there's so many points throughout the movie, I'm like, I agree with these choices. You're making good choices. You did a very good job.
Good job, Ryan Coogler. You made good choices.
I had to give him all the stickers. Best student in the class, Ryan.
Right,
Coogler.
Yeah. I like this film. I'm struggling to find things about this film that I really did not like, or I took like some, like, can I at least like nitpick at a few things? And I'm struggling to find things that I really disliked about the film. I don't think it was too long. I think all the performances were great. I think it opened us up to a new corner of the MCU that I'm excited to explore a little bit more. I think some new information about other characters, some returning ones, was, I think, some very interesting details in here for sure.
I don't know if this is the reaction other people had, but like the detail we learn about a supporting character is like the thing that was the most shocking for me.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, not anything happening in Wakanda or Talokan. It's a fact about another supporting character that I am thinking about.
Exactly what you're talking about.
Right?
We're on the same page here.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, the costuming, the music, the action, it's all beautiful in this. And I feel like the pace of this movie too was paced out really, really well. I don't feel like, I mean, I still want to see more of the Talokan is the name of the underwater city, but I don't feel like it was like, man, we barely got to see that. Like, I don't know.
No.
Like, I felt like everything was like good. I'm satisfied.
Yeah. It is a very well-toned, well-paced movie. You're introduced to these new concepts, new characters, and I think you do get to know them very well. You get a solid introduction to Namor and to Riri Williams. She's very fun. I really love both of these new characters.
Absolutely. Trying to think of what else I can say about it. I think if you are someone who has seen the first Black Panther, I think you can kind of just go into this one without having seen really anything else.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need to know the events of Infinity War or Endgame. They don't
if you
really
just
deal
know
with that. There's like one or two mentions of it, but that's kind of it.
Yeah, it's mostly just like it sort of marks time for them. If you just know the summary of Infinity War, you're good.
You're good to go. Yeah. So I liked that in terms of how accessible that this movie was. You really only needed to see the first one, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, it's still just at the end of the day, it really sucks that Chadwick Boseman is not here to be in this movie. But rest in peace to Chadwick Boseman.
Yes, absolutely. I think this movie was an absolutely fitting tribute. I don't think they could have done anything more.
For sure. Well, that being said, that's kind of spoiler-free thoughts on that. Go check it out if you have not yet. Real quickly, before we get into housekeeping, though, I did want to run down the box office mojo stuff that I like looking at. So we are recording this on the Sunday night of opening weekend. And domestically, the movie has made $180 million. Internationally, it has made $150 million, and worldwide $330 million. Lots of good money there.
Right. As if anybody had any doubt, this was going to be a major blockbuster.
Indeed. With that, I say we take a quick break for some housekeeping, and when we come back, we will dive into the movie itself. So we will be right back. We put a lot of hard work into the shows that we make, and yes, we make multiple different shows here at the Whatnauts, and we'd love it if you check them all out. You can find out more information on our website at thewhatnauts.com, as well as your favorite podcasting platform of choice. When you type in the Whatnauts, all of our shows will pop up right there. Just don't forget to give us a nice rating and review if you like the shows. If you want to support what we do here at The Whatnauts, patreon.com/The Whatnauts is the best place to do that. You can support us for as little as $1 a month. You can get all kinds of exclusive content at the $3 tier. You can also get a shout out and a thank you on all of our shows at the $5 tier. You can support us on Twitch by subscribing to our channel at twitch.tv/The Whatnauts, and we would love to have you all join us for our live streams and talk with us in the chat. And lastly, we have merch. If you'd like to grab yourself a shirt or a sweatshirt or a mug or something else, go to thewhatnauts.com/store to pick up some merch today. And we are back. A big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for supporting us, for checking us out. It means a lot to us. Cool things that we've been up to here at the Whatnauts. Of course, here on the Reactor Core, we have our reactions up to Star Wars Andor. Our most recent one covers 7 through 9. We're going to do one more once the show ends, or once season 1 ends. On that, I know, Melissa, you and I are also looking forward to 1899 on Netflix. And in some capacity, we're going to be covering that. I don't know how many episodes in total we're going to do on that. Just one or two or three. Who knows? We will figure it out real soon. So be on the lookout for that. On the review show, we are about to read a comic book called Die, which the author itself pitches as Goth Jumanji. It's about a bunch of adults who played a tabletop RPG, got sucked into it, and so the nightmare that they lived out in that RPG is now coming back to haunt them, and stuff like that. That's been a lot of fun. You should go check out the review show. The Captain's Log is our weekly kind of off-topic show. We've been catching up on pop culture news and stuff that's been happening in our lives recently. So there you go. That is the captain's log. That is all the housekeeping we got for you right here, right now. Let's get back to Black Panther. But with that said, spoilers. Let's get into spoilers for Black Panther. All right. So, as we typically do, I have my notes pulled up here. We'll only do kind of the broad strokes of what's happening plot-wise. I took notes or made notes for all of those broad strokes. And then we can kind of use that as a jumping off point for what we want to talk about and discuss in the film and all of that good stuff. So, the film opens, of course, with T'Challa's funeral. The rest of the world is now looking for scraps of vibranium outside of Wakanda, and they may have found some underwater using a machine that a scientist has created to track vibranium. But the whole thing is mysteriously foiled, and the world immediately assumes it was Wakanda trying to protect its most valuable resources. I'll stop right there and go to Melissa. Melissa, what did you think of T'Challa's funeral? What was going through your mind with all of that stuff?
The funeral's really beautiful. It's a lot of what we've seen in the trailers. I was told that, I think it was in Jessica Clemens' video for New Rockstars, where she says they get this out of the way early. Like, you don't watch the movie in dread of knowing that this death is going to happen. It is right there at the beginning. It's unnamed illness, doesn't need to be named. And I think that's definitely the right way to go. And something I'd been thinking about going into this movie was that Wakanda has proven itself to be so technologically adept beyond anything of mere mortals.
Right.
Like, how are they going to include an illness that actually killed somebody, killed their king? And I there's the inclusion that he used didn't tell anybody for a very long time, which I know is representative of the journey that Chadwick Boseman was on. It's a very sad choice, but I think it works, and I think it's a really nice, a really effective starting point for Shuri, and that she's the one who can solve any problem. This is the one problem she could not solve, and there's a question of, if he had just told me earlier, could I have solved it? Like, so there's that question of missing time. There's that question of, she's right. Like, the second when he's dying, she's still like punching numbers into her computer and having the Trevor Noah AI talk back to her like, all right, what's the level at now? What's the level at now? That's not high enough, but I have to run with it. I have to start 3D printing the heart-shaped herb. I have to do anything I can. Like, she's right up to the wire with this. And you can tell that it really haunts her. Like, this movie starts off on such a haunting note in that regard. Not haunting to her specific character. I think it's sad, it's beautiful, it's very honorable, and it really puts you in the right starting place for what Shuri's journey is in this movie, which is just a series of tragedies.
It kind of is, yeah. That is the thing. I think they did the only thing they could do to explain his death. That it was this undisclosed illness. Like, they don't necessarily know exactly what it was. Like, maybe his immediate loved ones know what it is, but they don't share that information out. Because that is the thing, is that, like, Wakanda is technologically, medically, like, that much more advanced than everyone else in the MCU. And as soon as they name it, they probably could have cured it. And it's like, oh, haven't they already cured it, right? So they kind of just had to do the thing, which I think is the only thing, but like you said, the right thing, because it also mirrors Chadwick Boseman's actual journey, that he just didn't really tell people that he was dealing with this, which is why it's such a shock for everyone.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, the whole thing was beautiful. I like the mix of both sadness and celebration. within the funeral march, right? They start out in the woods, it seems like, where they might actual. I'm not sure exactly if they are actually burying him out there, like that's actually where he's being laid to rest, and the march is more of a celebration for the people. Because they then take the casket from that wooded place, march it all through the streets of Wakanda right up to the royal palace, and then the coffin gets like lifted up by one of the ships and then taken off somewhere. We don't know what happened with that.
I was unclear on if this was purely symbolic or if there was a physical body in the physical coffin, or even if there isn't, where is the coffin going? But it was a weird emotional punch when the coffin just is lifted vertically up and like the tractor beam of the Wakandan ship, to see the coffin, this like representation of T'Challa and of Chadwick, like stand up in front of you. It was a weird feeling.
It was a really weird feeling, but like them out in the woods, that was the like real personal emotional sadness that you got there, as a few of the characters are walking the casket down the street. They are still very somber, they're sad, but literally everyone else is singing, they're dancing, they're celebrating. It is this like happy, joyous, not in a like disrespectful way, like yay the king is dead, but like in this like we really just want to celebrate his life. And God, it was beautiful stuff.
We spend so much. I don't feel like we know the average Wakandan citizen and their mindset very well. I don't know when we would have slowed down and had the time to do that, so this isn't a complaint. But you do wonder what just like the average person is thinking after having one king die so suddenly and then the next king die so suddenly. Like, and how are you scared? How do you feel in that situation? But to see all of them, in their full regalia, dancing so skillfully and so joyfully, it is a really lovely showing that they're, even if you don't know how they're feeling, they're at least putting on a very brave and celebratory face to like do what perhaps the royal family cannot in that time.
Agreed. Yeah. So then I think pretty much immediately we start hearing like, okay, they're dealing with the death of their king. What's the rest of the world up to?
Yeah.
And they are searching for any scrap of vibranium that they can get their hands on, because they know even just a small bit can do a lot.
Yeah.
And essentially that leads them to this underwater expedition. They think they found some ship or some rock or something that has vibranium in it. They're testing it out. They're not entirely sure yet. And yes, they find vibranium, or what they think it is vibranium. And right as they're actually about to test it, things go mysteriously wrong in this underwater location. I think at the same time, this is also where we get, there's the other location. It's more the like bank robbery heist looking.
Yeah, first you get that like heist sort of scene with the French soldiers trying to take something from this Wakandan outreach center, and then it's the Dora Milaje in disguise who take him down. Intercut with Queen Ramonda at the UN.
Baller ass move.
It's very cool. I liked her at the UN talking to Toby from the West Wing.
Yeah.
I was very happy to see that guy. I love the reveal that we're not seeing something cross-cut. We're seeing a flashback. And then the Dora Milaje in new outfits we've never seen them in before. It was kind of fun to see them in clothes that aren't for battle or for ceremony. They're just nice outfits. Nice, slightly more business casual Dora Milaje wear. They like march all those French soldiers in, and the French representatives wincing.
Yeah,
an excellent start, and I think a really fun, an appropriately fun way to pick up the mood after that. Yeah.
Because
But
that is like the first bit of action that we get.
yeah.
And then pretty much immediately goes into like the first bit of mystery of like what happened to this underwater excursion, right? What is going on here?
I loved that attack on the ship. I think that was such a rad scene where you've got the divers underwater and they're like big puffy space suits. And one of them, like just them getting lost in the dark. And one of them turns around and they're like, I can't find the other guy. And Lake Bell's like, what do you mean you can't see him? And it's like, no, like his rigging is there. He is missing. I don't know where he is. And then the Talokan sirens doing the siren call to like make everybody just like walk off the edge of the boat. This scene was kind of scary in a way I really liked. It's so dark. It's truly, and the fact that these characters have no idea what's going on, and you as the audience, we saw the trailers, we're in the know. We know we're getting introduced to the Talokans, the equivalent of these Atlantean underwater people. But we didn't know, at least I didn't know, they have a siren song. Like, this was not something I knew was in their power set. And if you're like just walking into this movie not knowing anything about it, you must also be completely lost. I really dug what an unnerving scene this was. And I like that amidst all the different moods that this movie has, how tragic and honorable and celebratory and fun and action-packed, like everything it got to be, it also got to be a little scary sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I liked this scene a lot. I think oddly enough, some of the best scenes in the MCU happen on boats. Right? We get the Captain America Winter Soldier scene on that boat.
Yeah.
So good. This too, I oddly really like this. I don't think it's as good as Captain America running around that boat there, but still, it was just like was a scene I was not expecting to be like, they have this like siren song that makes these people commit suicide. Like, that's heavy stuff.
Yes, there's such a huge body count in this movie. I think this might be the biggest body count in an MCU movie, sans dusting. I'm not going to count a dusting as a body count. Yeah, but then, like, I guess at the end of Infinity War, where there's like cars plummeting and other cars with no driver, it's probably this Infinity War and maybe like Age of Ultron with the highest body counts. Like,
right? Yeah,
this is such a disaster.
Yeah, and immediately the entire world just kind of assumes that whoever took out this boat, it had to have been the Wakandans, because they were looking for vibranium, and the Wakandans have most of that. So why wouldn't they want to protect their most valuable asset? Right? Like, that just, it makes sense. But the Wakandans are like, what do you mean? Like, we don't know anything about this. And we eventually we get a scene where it goes back to Wakanda, and it's Queen Ramonda and Shuri, and they're still trying to mourn and cope with the loss of T'Challa. They go out by themselves to do this ritual to just kind of move on. Like, hey, let's burn these outfits here so we can just kind of wash ourselves clean and start new here.
Yeah.
This is where Namor makes himself known.
Oh,
so here's what
an entrance
I have to say here. Yes. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I just, well, first I want to mention it is a year after the death. I don't know if we know exactly when all this takes place in the MCU timeline. Not a major concern. Somebody will figure that out in a couple weeks. But I do like that Queen Ramonda is grieving about as well as somebody can in this circumstances, but she knows that Shuri is not doing well. Shuri's like absolutely throwing herself into her work. She's got all of her scientists working with her on like action plans for problems that have not arisen yet. She's in full like Tony Stark building Ultron mode. Just like I have to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good way
she's
to
just trying to
put
build a
that.
suit of armor around Wakanda and for more like smaller and predictable problems. She's like, well, how do I cure every disease? How do I protect everything? How do I make everything safe? Queen Ramonda's like, how about you just take your mom for a drive? I've got something for us to do. We're going to burn the ceremonial funeral clothes. You do this and it ends the mourning period and it begins the sort of next period of your life. And she does it. But before Shuri can do it, that's when Namor just like walks out of the ocean like James Bond.
Right. Yeah. So Namor makes himself known to Queen Ramonda and Princess Shuri, essentially asking them to deliver to him the scientist that made the device that was searching for the vibranium, and for them to keep him and his people's existence a secret in exchange for not destroying Wakanda. And it's a really, really interesting scene, which is immediately followed by Agent Ross being able to point Shuri in the right direction of Riri Williams, a young woman in college who not only originally designed that vibranium tracking machine, but has also been building her own Iron Man suit. And just as Shuri and Okoye are asking Riri to come with them, the feds show up. Things go sideways real quick, and it all ends with Shuri and Riri being captured by Namor and his people. So here's where some interesting things start to happen in this film. I think Namor immediately showing up all stealthy in the middle of the night, like you said, walking out of the ocean like James Bond.
Walking out of like a river. Like he had to have quite a journey to get to like inner landlocked Wakanda in the middle of Africa. Who knows how long he's been traveling?
Exactly, yeah. But he just kind of shows up. And they are confused. They're scared. They're like, who is this guy? How did you get in here? Because their borders should be protected. And he is adorned in his typical, like, not speedo, boxer brief kind of things, right? As well as all of this jewelry, which it does not necessarily shine the purple vibranium colors that we're used to, but Shuri immediately recognizes it as like he's decked out in vibranium here. And once he decides to leave and walk away, they turn around and that giant machine is there. And they're just like, yeah, fuck, he wasn't alone. They are a lot stronger than we thought. I mean, not that they barely knew who they were, but it was just like, okay, we're dealing with someone who's a lot stronger than we're used to, right? We're not sure exactly where their power level is. And I thought that was an interesting way to like introduce the power to the Wakandans, not by like, let's explode something, but like, let's be stealthy.
Yes.
Right? It's just like, interesting. Like, not what I thought would have been. But again, good choice, Ryan Coogler.
Right. A fantastic introduction. One of the most effective introductions to a character, I think, since we met Sam Wilson. That's one of my favorites. I think often of that jogging scene. I still really like it.
Great stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff with that. Immediately, once I heard like 2 or 3 times that a scientist had made this machine, that's when I leaned over to my partner and I was like, I bet you it's Riri. I guarantee you it's Riri. And yes, that is exactly who it is. And we are pointed in that direction by Agent Ross. Good old Agent Ross. We got to check in on him here. He's just out in the middle of the woods in Virginia, running around, much like the opening to Silence of the Lambs, where we see what's her name, like running around there, right?
Clarice, yeah.
And
going for a
like,
jog with his red hot chili peppers.
Yeah, right. Instead of like physically training to pass the exam, he's just out there like minding his own business and swatting at a bug, stuff like that. And it turns out to be like a little drone camera thing that leads him to the Wakandans who are out there and being like, "Hey, what's happening here?"
I like that at first he thinks it's a bug, and then he notices the bug is tracking his exact movements, and he's like, "Oh, I know what this is." And he's like, "You guys couldn't have just called me."
Yeah, right. She's like, "Why would you think I have your number?" Which is a great response. He's one of my favorite like side characters of the MCU. I'm glad that he got to be in this one again. He points us in the direction of Riri Williams. Melissa, what did you think of Riri?
She's really charming. I like her a lot. I like that she's running this side hustle where she will help people with their homework for like $800.
Yeah, it's not even that like. Well, I think in that one case, she was helping him. I feel like she does other shadier stuff, though. It's not like I will help you with your homework and you can pay me for all the work that I did. But it's like, hey, can you like hack in and change my grade or get my cousin accepted to Harvard or who knows what, right?
I know she's an engineer. She's a builder, so I don't know if like hacking is also like one of the things she's super, super good at. But she seems like she could be at least pretty good at anything.
She's
I love going to visit her garage. Yeah, she's like restoring this old car. She talks about how like her stepdad, I think, was a mechanic and would like give her some tools when she's like 3 years old. She's like, I've always been doing this. She's 19. She's an MIT. She's got her Chicago City flag up in her dorm room. I like that. I like knowing somebody else is from the Midwest.
Right? Yeah. I was kind of expecting her to be from Detroit, especially with her like working on that car and stuff. Just Detroit being like a big car city. And just like, hey, it would be understandable that like a mechanic would come out of that city, but they placed her in Chicago, and I'm not sure how accurate that is to the comics. If she's from Chicago,
I think it is. I think that
too.
Is her origin story. She is from Chicago. Yes,
interesting.
They have cars all over America, you know.
Oh. Really? We have no cars here in Oklahoma, Melissa.
I understand it. You ride a horse.
They had the factories in Detroit for the car stuff. That's what it's the Motor City. Come on.
True. It is not the Windy City. It's not like she's like, I'm from Chicago. I build wind turbines.
I'm harnessing the wind.
Right.
Right.
I'm from St. Louis. I just build a lot of arches. I don't know what they're good for, but boy, do I keep building them.
McDonald's seems to like me. I don't know why, but
right? I'm a secret McDonald's scientist.
No, but like I'm not super familiar with Riri Williams in the comics. She is one of these kind of new wave Marvel legacy characters, along with like Miles Morales and Amadeus Cho, America. I guess America Chavez isn't legacy, but she is new, like this new younger generation, right? We also have Miss Marvel as part of that, and from like I just know the very basics about her is that she was in college and made her own Iron Man suit, and that was it. Like that's all I know about her. So I feel like this was a great introduction. I I
Mhm.
loved what we got of her. And the first thing that I said to my partner after we got out was, compared to America Chavez, I feel like I know nothing about America. What they did with her in Doctor Strange versus
Mm.
what they do with Riri here in Black Panther. I feel like I know Riri a lot
Yes.
more.
Yes.
Which is unfortunate, I think, for America, but oh well.
Mhm.
But yeah, I thought she was super charming, trying to throw her heater at Okoye and like
She cuts
just
her
completely
speaker
gets
in half.
dragged into all of this, which is, I think, something else that they do fantastically with this movie, right? Is
Mm.
that despite her just kind of being dragged into this whole plot, this whole situation,
Mm.
they I feel like they do her justice in
Yes.
this thing,
Yeah.
because
Uh.
she is the scientist, right? But she's not
Mhm.
the actual person that built this machine.
Yes.
She came up with the idea, and her teacher was like, that'll never work. Like, that's not gonna happen. And then stole the idea. Motherfucker, right? Like,
yeah. Which I think is an interesting thing to have going into the Ironheart show, that she might be suspicious of any sort of teachers or mentor figures in her life if she's already been through this with having a class project she worked on being turned into technology that caused like worldwide political strife.
Did international incident, right? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be interesting, especially with Don Cheadle being in that too, because I feel like he would kind of be the mentor role in that series. So we'll have to see how trusting she is of all of that stuff. But yeah, I loved what they did with her. Yes, go ahead.
There's just one line I want to shout out when they're going, when they're trying to not they don't want her to like see the Wakandans coming. So Okoye's like used makeup to cover up her head tattoos. And I like that it's just Fenty. I like that for as many pieces of technology that Wakanda is exceptionally good at. Like they don't make their own head tattoo covering makeup for the Dora Milaje. It's just Fenty. It's what anybody could go to the store and get. I just thought that was a nice way to, I don't know, just share credit with other businesses, you know? Nice homage to Rihanna, who does a beautiful song for the film.
Of course. Yeah. We get to see Riri's garage, get to see all the plans. I still have not looked at any kind of like Easter egg breakdowns or anything, so I'm sure there's some hints and nods at things around her garage that I probably missed, but I am not certain of that stuff yet. But yeah, she has her own Iron Man suit there that she made, and it can fly, thankfully.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, then the feds show up. They go on the run immediately. They get split up. They get separated. They all kind of converge on this bridge. And this is when the Talokan is it Talokan people? Is that how you would say that? Or the Telokani? I don't. I'm not sure exactly how. But
Namor's buddies.
But yeah, Namor's people. They show up on the backs of whales. They hop in and they start being like, all right, we're here for the scientist. And that kind of concludes with Riri being like, no, like take me and her.
Yeah.
Don't just kill her. Like let me go speak to Namor.
Yeah, I like that Shuri volunteers, like, take me to your leader. I want to speak to him directly.
Yeah, I think also by saying her name, like, hi, I am Princess Shuri
Yeah.
of Wakanda. Like, let me speak to your later. I think it is like, well, we kind of have to take her hostage now because
Right.
if she is a hostage, that could be a very, very good thing for us of a bargaining chip here to get whatever we want and need, and to get the Wakandans to cooperate. So, yeah, and I think if they killed her, that also would have been like Namor probably would have been mad because then Wakanda would have been after them to like do it. Yeah, so the whole thing was kind of a mess. But immediately after that is when we get the crime scene. Here comes Agent Ross again looking at the crime scene, and Val shows up.
This is the one specific thing I knew about the movie because I was listening to Little Gold Men, which is an Oscars watch podcast, and they were talking about, if Black Panther was nominated for so many awards, what are Wakanda Forever's chances? And they're talking about how at this point there's so much MCU lore that there were things in the movie that they knew must mean something to a Marvel fan but felt inscrutable to them as just film critics. They're like, at one point Julia Louis-Dreyfus shows up and I know she's supposed to mean something, but I don't know what it is.
Right, it's them just not having any knowledge of the MCU, but being like, this actor though, like that's notable, right? Like there's something happening here, right?
So I knew that going in, but it didn't ruin anything for me. I'm like, I probably could have guessed that. Like that's the game Marvel's been playing lately. Two people are in anything, you've got a good chance of seeing Val or Wong in most titles.
Yeah, good old Wongers. But yeah, I did not know she was going to be in this, but like you said, could have guessed. But I think I just have to skip ahead a bit here because this was so fascinating.
Yes.
This is the thing that the most interesting thing to me about this movie is that we learn that Val was married to Agent Ross at some point. What?
Yes, I love this.
This is great.
So I just rewatched Black Panther, and there's a moment in that movie where like somebody asks Ross to trust them, and he's like, I don't trust anybody in this line of work. And you look at him and you're like, you are so hardened. You are such a man of your career. Like Everett Ross is quietly one of the sadder characters in the MCU because it really seems like he doesn't have anything going on outside of his job. And so to learn that he was once married to Val makes so much sense. Like she seems like a lady who would suck a lot of your life energy out of you and leave you like really suspicious and bitter.
Right? Yeah.
And
that nails it. That's such a good reveal.
And I like that she's still like super nosy about his life. Like she just keeps showing up at his house. We don't know if that's the house they shared or if he's like moved to a new place and she just can get in. She's like, oh, you look like you've been really working out. I'll have to take a ride in your Peloton. She comes out of the shower one morning. She's just making breakfast like in the kitchen. And then when she has put it to...
I was just going to say, the thing is, because of the nature of their jobs, I don't know if they really broke up or ended their marriage or relationship because of something that actually happened in the relationship. I think it was just the stress of the jobs of like, I know you're a secret agent. Like, I know you're lying to me about stuff. But I don't know what exactly. And so just this amount of, I just kind of always have to be suspicious of you. Because that is the thing. Like, she is still nosy. It seems like they're on okay term, or they have to be because of the nature of their work. Yeah. Right? But even the way she's said, like, oh, I'm going to have to hop on your Peloton was suggestive.
Yes.
Was just like, oh. Right. Okay. Sure.
And then when she has put it together that he's the one who spilled the secrets on who this top secret scientist was who made this vibranium locator, like I said, she's standing there in the kitchen and she opens a drawer in the kitchen island and pulls out some handcuffs to arrest him. And I'm like,
Yep.
did you bring those with you for the purposes of arresting him?
The handcuffs?
Or did you just have sex handcuffs in your kitchen that you shared? Which one of these is more likely?
Right, or is this also the like just in case you have that like secret gun like stashed away underneath the right, and he just also happens to have a pair of handcuffs
in the kitchen.
Right there too, like gun and handcuffs in case someone comes in and he can subdue them or something there. And yeah, she just happens to be like, I have some handcuffs.
I love it either way. I think putting these two characters together, nobody saw this coming. This was the number one surprise in the movie for me. I think it's such a good touch. It's so fascinating. I love the way like Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Martin Freeman play off each other. And I love that now we've got the possibility that whenever we see one of them, we could see the other one going forward. Like everything we know Val's going to be in, we have a good chance of seeing him too. This opens up a whole new world. This is as big of a reveal as we have underwater people.
It's also really interesting to me because I think when Val first showed up, we were looking into like who her character is in the comics, and she was an on again, off again love interest for Nick Fury in the comics. And so I think just the idea of like, here's Nick Fury, the like world's greatest like secret agent, right? He is the super spy, and then here's sad sack Everett Ross, right? And she was with him instead. It's just like, what a twist! This is great.
Well, the thing is that Everett Ross is very competent at his job. He's a sad sack, only that you get the sense of like. Phil Coulson at least went on the date with that lady who played the cello. Up until this, we knew nothing about Everett K. Ross's personal life, and it seemed like he just did not have one. He got up, went to work, went home, went to sleep, dreamed about CIA things, woke up, did CIA things in real life.
But here's the thing, though. Like, yeah, he's competent at his job, but I don't ever feel like he is necessarily like the smartest one in the room. Like he is not the
definitely not. No.
He's just kind of normal Joe Schmo. He just happens to be in the right places at the right time, I feel like, for most of it, except for maybe his introduction when they have the Winter Soldier and he's kind of I think they mentioned that he's like the expert on him or something, or like a specialist or something, who knows what, but that's kind of the only time where I feel like he is the one that is like in charge of the situation. The rest is just like, he just kind of happens to be there at the right time. He knows people, right?
The joke of Everett K. Ross for me is that in any other circumstances, he would be like the lead of his own TV show. Like he seems like he could be the lead of like an AMC series or something. Like he could absolutely be a protagonist. It's just anytime you put him with the Wakandans, he automatically jumps to the lowest rung of the ladder. He can't climb up any higher. He is so outpaced, so out of his league, and he's still in this like work mode of, no, I'm in charge of any situation I'm in. And he thankfully has learned to be like, I really have no control. I really have to surrender control to you.
Yeah, and on top of all of that, they tease him too. That they're like, oh, there's my favorite colonizer. There we go. There he is. What a guy. So that's I think is just an amazing turn of events for the MCU. Great job, Ryan Coogler, even though I'm sure that was not your decision to put them together.
I wondered whose it was.
Right. Okay. Let's move ahead a little bit here. So we catch up with Shuri, who is now in the custody of the Talokan people. And she kind of gets this grand tour and history of the city and all of that stuff. What the history of Namor and his people, all of that stuff. Meanwhile, we check in with Okoye, who did not get captured, and she gets fired. That sucks.
This is heartbreaking.
Yeah, that was a tough moment. At first, I was like, whoa, wait, what? Like, why are you firing her? What is happening here? And then I was like, oh, yeah, well, she lost the princess. Like, makes sense. Like, there's really no other way to go about that. Like, if it had been more public, she probably would have resigned. At least in like the Western world of like what we know, what would have happened there. You probably would have been like, hey, it's either you get like you resign or like you get hired. But just with the way things work, she's just like, get out, you're done.
It's and the tragedy of like she was knocked out underwater, like fighting to get back up when Shuri volunteered, take me to Namor. So like they don't know. Shuri was not kidnapped. She asked to go meet Namor to meet this ruler of this warring country that they're with. And like Queen Ramona wasn't there to see how hard she was fighting against these enemies who have vibranium technology when they've never needed to face that before. Like they've always been the people with the vibranium. So all her usual training isn't working for her at the level which it usually does. And in the first movie, when Killmonger pushes T'Challa off the edge of Warrior Falls and he's the king, and Okoye says, like, I did not serve T'Challa. I serve Wakanda. I serve whoever the ruler is. I don't like him, but this is my duty. This is my job. And you can tell she's under a lot of conflict, but that she's sincerely doing what she thinks is the right thing. Something that does make sense from some angles that you're looking at it. And yeah, that you didn't know that Ramonda still kind of held that against her or like had this in her, or like maybe she wouldn't have until like she has lost everybody. And until she, like, Okoye said, I'm going to take out Princess Shuri. I'm going to take her out in the world with me on this mission. I think it'll be good for her to get away. She's under my watch. I promise I will take care of her. And then she doesn't. Like, maybe, like, that's what absolutely broke Ramonda. And she's like, and this other thing, too. You also did this. I have a lot of reasons to be upset.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
On top of that, let's see here. Nakia, we catch back up with her.
Yes!
She is living in Haiti. She is recruited to stage a rescue mission because of her history infiltrating other countries. And even though it works, Shuri and Namor had brokered a small peace contingent on Shuri staying and no other Wakandans showing up in Talokan. Of course, that news hadn't gotten out yet, but here comes Nakia, and she stages the rescue. So Namor ends up showing up in force in Wakanda and absolutely is just destroys, just wrecks shop, catches them all off guard, just wrecks the place.
This
and
is rough.
Unfortunately, this attack ends with the death of Queen Ramonda here as she's trying to save Riri from drowning. She ends up drowning herself. So
did not see that one coming. I thought that if this movie already had such a big death to deal with, that would be it. I didn't think we would lose anybody else. And especially after we just lost Aunt May, like I didn't think we would repeat the death of like a strong female role model again. Like it felt similar to that, but I do like what they're able to get out of it. And I do love that Queen Ramonda gets this final moment that is her saving Riri Williams. Like she continues to be like really proactive. She's always doing something. She gets a lot more to do in this movie than she did in the previous one. I think it is a very fitting end to her character. And I do like what it does to Shuri. And it does kind of make her this weird mirror to Spider-Man in a way which I was not expecting. Was not expecting the weird mirrors to Spider-Man in this movie.
Yeah. Man, just like thinking about that whole scene, like the whole thing think is just one tragedy after another at such a rapid pace that I feel like a lot of these characters just don't have time to think or slow down or properly mourn. And I think that is, I know with Chadwick Boseman's death, they did have to like redo the plot of this movie. They did have to rethink all of that stuff. So I'm wondering if that was partly it, like just the speed of because I remember the night the news got out, you and I were recording a podcast, and we had already ended the recording, and we were like, oh, he, this, like, what? He had cancer?
Yes.
Like,
yes. Oh,
just the speed at which, and that was only one thing, but I think that is what they're trying to get at in this movie of like, hey, these tragedies in someone's life can happen at light speed, and sometimes you don't have a moment to slow down and properly mourn or think about your actions or how you'll move forward, and the problems that can create, right? I think even for Okoye, like Queen Ramonda is kind of lashing out, right? And she says the reason too, like, my whole family is gone.
Yes.
And so it's understandable why she's lashing out, why she's feeling this way, but it's just been one after the other that she just like, she has no idea what to do. Like, she's not actually sat there and figured out, like, she hasn't heard the whole story there yet. There's no way she could have, but it's that, like, that is kind of the running theme, I feel like, of just like, sometimes this thing will hit you, and it just, how do I react here? Because but by the end of the film, that's kind of what Shuri has to deal with too, of like, I finally solved this one issue, but another tragedy presented itself in that. Now I have to, like, do I lash out and get vengeance, or do I take a moment and sit back and be the later that my people need me to be? I'm now this, like, the new face of this symbol, right? Like, how do I conduct myself here? So we'll get to some more of those details in a sec here, but I think we should go back real quick and talk about Talokan itself.
Yes.
What did you think about all of this?
I loved this. The scene where Shuri puts on, like, the big puffy spaceman underwater suit and goes down to see the capital city. It's really beautiful. And I like how visually dark it is. Like, there's just not a lot of light sources, and there wouldn't be. I like that it's not fully lit up. It's a very magical scene in not a traditionally, like, magical way, like in the movie Atlantis, The Lost Empire or something. I like that she's going down through these, like, sort of dark, mysterious passages, and when she gets to the city, it is kind of dark, but it's so beautiful. Like, you see everybody swimming around, and to see these sort of little transactions of, like, food, and I'm buying jewelry and things like that. People stop and wave at her. Yeah. It's I liked it a lot. I really like getting to see that city and getting to see all those people. And I like that it has a real effect on her too. Like, she really enjoys discovering that place. She likes getting to know those people. And I like that her and Namor have this fairly respectful relationship with each other at this stage. That they're both trying to be diplomatic. And Namor tells her the story of his origin of his people's origin, and that which is so folkloric. Like it feels like a fairy tale, and I like how fairy tale it feels. Where like a shaman had a vision, and the vision is we have to ingest this one weird plant, and then everybody turns blue and they can't breathe air anymore, and they have to go live underwater.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how he's like the first baby born in this underwater world, and it was prophesized that he would be king, and he's got this one bracelet that his mother had that was like from her time on land, and it's a special relic, but he's like, I want to give this to Princess Shuri, like because when he first goes up on the banks of that river to like talk to her and the queen, he is like, it's cool up here, this land is beautiful, I admire this country that you have. I wish you would have kept it a secret special place, because that's how we treat our country, and it's been working out well for us so far. And I don't like that now that the world knows of your secret, they might be looking out for other secrets, and now my community is in danger. But
Yeah.
I like that he like wants to like Wakanda. Like he wants to like its land and its people, and he offers her this gift. I think it's noble. I like that it wasn't
I think he
entirely
feels
war.
a kinship. Like
Yes,
there is
yes.
a certain familiarity there, especially with giving Shuri the bracelet of his mother. Like that's very personal. Like that is
Yes.
like, whoa, you're giving away that, and it's not like a marriage proposal thing, right? Immediately when he did that, I was like, ooh, is Shuri gonna replace Sue Storm? Namor is usually obsessed with her. What is Shuri gonna think when,
what jewelry do you have left to give to Sue Storm, Namor? What are you gonna give her?
Right? Exactly. So yeah, that was a bit of an oddball move in my mind, but of course it does end up being the MacGuffin of like, oh, she can use that to bring the heart-shaped herb back, which we'll get to in a sec here.
I do want to say I like that he gave it to her as like, my mother was originally a woman of the land. She spoke highly of the land. Like initially she didn't like that she had to leave it. She had this one keepsake from her time on land, and as another like land dweller, like he just sees her as part of the same community as his mom, sort of, just in that you're from the above world. You get to live among like all these grasses and trees and skies and things. Like that sort of links you with her. That makes you of a kind with her in a very approximate way. And I like that he sort of sees beyond like race and time and things like that, to where it's like landlubber. You have a connection with my mother. You remind me of her because you're from land. So I have this trinket of my mother's.
Yeah. I think, like I said at the start of this podcast, I find myself really hard pressed to find even stuff that I can nitpick. I feel like this is where maybe my one nitpick comes in, which is, even though I agree with everything you said about just this beautiful moment of seeing the city and the people in it, the life there is, the food, the sports, the culture, right?
Yeah, the sports.
It is just dark. It's so dark. And I felt like I was kind of hoping for like a brighter look into this world, especially with him then being like, I did some magical thing that I brought the sun to my people so that every day we can have light. It's like, well, if you have light, why don't you use it? Like, I don't like the whole thing is just dark. I could barely see some of the stuff. It's still beautifully shot. It's still gorgeous. But I'm still like, it is the like shiny new thing of just being like, ooh, I want to see more. Like, let me go down that dark corner. What's over there? Sports? Okay. What other technology do you guys have? Like, it's more.
It would have been nice. Yeah.
A curiosity rather than like, oh, this movie is shot badly and all that. It's too dark. Why'd they make it like that? It's just like, I want to know more. Right? This looks so cool.
I understand that.
My one nitpick.
Yeah, so. I also have a singular nitpick with the movie, which I can barely even fight with, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, I loved the action scene that was happening in Wakanda, all the stuff below. And I like that the explosions were just like explosions of water, like this, like not even like, hey, we have these explosives that work under water and it's still fire somehow. No, it's just this force of water, which I thought was really, really neat. It was good seeing M'Baku out there saving people.
Yeah.
And,
oh my God.
Stuff like that.
I talked about the guy in my audience who laughed a lot when M'Baku first walks into like the Wakandan like throne room and he's eating a carrot. This guy in my audience, he sounded like I am an older guy. He laughed, but it's like, ha ha ha! Like he laughed with a sense of like familiarity or acknowledgement. He laughed in a way of saying, yeah, that's right. Like, like I don't know what the laugh was. If he was just happy to see M'Baku because that's his first shot of the movie, or if there's something about how he's eating a carrot that this guy liked. Like, I like to eat carrots too. That's me.
It's very Bugs Bunny, though, in that sense too. Like, I don't know if there's really any kind of connection to be like, I can see how M'Baku is like Bugs Bunny. But
you know how he's always putting on a wig and fooling Elmer Fudd.
Looks like we took a wrong turn at Albuquerque, right? It just in that he is very sassy in the way he eats that thing too. So I mean, there is some physical comedy with that, but yeah, it's good. It was good seeing them like not necessarily just fighting back, but also in like, no, we need to save people. Like, go get the kid here. You take him. Like, let's get him up there. It's like even him kind of not only being the leader of his people, but being in charge of the army. Even seeing Okoye out there still doing this same stuff, right? It's like their first instinct was to help people, not fight, which I think is an interesting note. With that, I mean, they are reacting, right? They did not know that he was showing up, so it's not like they could prepare. But just the fact that they were like, let's help the citizens first, and then we'll see what we can do after that. I thought that was neat, but yeah, was not expecting the death of Queen Ramonda. That was real sad. We got to see the funeral happening again with her.
That was so heartbreaking and like so effective to see the full funeral pageantry, like the full funeral ritual at the beginning of the movie, and then to have everything repeated again so quickly afterwards. Like, it's the repetition of the thing is truly horrifying.
Yeah. And that's why I'm curious to know if they actually bury the dead out there in that forest, because later, once they do get that heart-shaped herb back, they plant a bunch in that same forest, in that spot, in like a circle of those stones there. So it just felt like this must have been a significant spot. Like, I felt like if T'Challa was buried there or her mother was buried there, like, to plant those flowers on top of them is kind of a sweet way for them to then continue to give life to the people, right? But it's unclear. So there you go. So let's see. Wakanda is trying to decide how to respond to the attack, while Shuri has been trying to synthetically recreate the heart-shaped herb that gave the Black Panther their powers. She manages to successfully do it with the bracelet that Namor gave her as a gift. Of course, that means the Black Panther is back, and Wakanda then takes the fight to Talokan. This is where the big battle of the movie happens, which climaxes in Shuri kind of wrestling with what to do with her newfound power, as well as this vision she had as she drank this mixture.
Yeah.
We'll get to that a sec here. Just really confused and angry and just not sure how that will affect her going forward here. So she's wrestling with that. She ends up beating Namor and is about to kill him, but then at the last second decides to spare his life in favor of peace. So I took a quick bathroom break, kind of right here where she's working to synthetically make the heart-shaped herb. I knew exactly what was gonna happen once they introduced like the mix of like she's trying to recreate it at the start of the film, and then she gets the bracelet which gave them the powers to breathe underwater and all that stuff. I was like, oh, all right, cool. Yep, that makes sense, right? Like that's the thing that is going to be. So I was like, all right, I can go now because I know she's just going to be like, does this mix work? Nope. Does that mix work?
Yeah.
Nope. Does this one work? It does. Yes. So
it is a montage. I don't think you missed much, but it is a montage I like. I think the song was like very well toned for this. She's got her head down. She's been so destroyed. There's a moment, I think she's talking to M'Baku just after the Queen's funeral where she says, I buried the last person who truly knew me. My heart goes with her. Like he's asking her for counsel, for her opinion, and like what to do with all these people from the flooded parts of Wakanda. And he's like, what are you feeling? And she's like, I don't feel anything anymore. I'm nobody. I've lost my entire family.
Yeah.
Ugh, yeah. It's rough, but I kind of it's very sad the circumstances under which this had to happen, but I think it is fascinating to see this character, this very capable always, and in the first movie like very energetic, upbeat character, and like after King T'Chaka has died, she seems fairly well adjusted, given that she's recently lost her father. But to have her also then lose her brother and then lose her mother in like really quick succession, it is like taken everything that she has. Like she has nothing else left. She can't do that again. Like she's so wrecked. She's so empty, but she's so like laser focused on doing like absolutely like everything she can for everybody she has left, for her country, for like the legacy of the Black Panther role, especially when like we don't know how much like combat training she's had. You know, she's got her like cannons on her arms and like the Battle of Infinity War. Like she's got like some they're not in Infinity War. I think that is the end of Black Panther. At the end of Infinity War, she's just in the lab with Vision. But like we've seen her do some fighting, but we've never been shown like, oh, she's been trained to be a warrior. She's around warriors, but we don't know exactly everything she knows how to do. We know that like has not been her life's path. So for her to adopt this out of such like harsh necessity and duty, and for her to sort of combine like, I'm going to be the absolute warrior and the absolute scientist, and I'm the only person left for the throne. Like it's so much like crushing pressure on her. Like I said, it's really sad circumstances, but I think it makes for a really interesting character study and like a really interesting journey she goes on within this film. And I like how she does start to put some pieces back together by the end of it. I like that they don't leave her in this emotional state for too long.
Yeah. So yeah, she takes this mixture to get the powers of the Black Panther to test it out and see like, hey, the like scientifically it should work, but let's see, right? And part of that ritual is when she drinks this stuff, she has this vision to connect with her ancestors, to go to the ancestral plane, and she's expecting to see her mother or T'Challa or her father, like just someone from her family. Instead, she sees Killmonger.
Oh,
It immediately was just like, oh shit, here we go. Like I didn't know that he was gonna be back
well,
in this one.
I know there were theories about, is Killmonger coming back in some way? You know, he was buried in the ocean. Is it possible that like Talokan people found him and like were able to heal him? Is he coming back to life, or is he just going to be in the ancestral plane? You know, in some other like from beyond the grave form. I so you could have seen it coming that he was in the ancestral plane. But I like that when she goes there, it's a way different tone than we've
Yeah.
seen in any of the ancestral plane visions from the first movie. It feels, again, kind of scary. It's very unnerving and eerie in there. And yeah, she like walks around the throne. She can see there's somebody sitting on it. And you turn around and it's Killmonger. He's the only person there. They're inside the throne room. They're not even in the field with all the panthers in the tree. There's
Right.
nobody else waiting for her in the ancestral plane. It's only this cousin she barely knew, who she is turning into in all of her vengeance and her rage.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that is the thing. She's wrestling with what to do next. Do I just immediately lash out and take care of these enemies, right? These people that attack. Like there is like, as a strong leader, you kind of need to do something about that, right? Like you need to be prepared. You need to have the strength to then go get them back, or who knows? Like she needs to do something. So it makes sense on one hand to be like, yes, why wouldn't you go get this Namor guy? But then she's also but my brother was a better person than you, and he's kind of the one that I looked up to be like my moral compass. Like, shouldn't I be more like him? And in his own way, Killmonger is like, well, did he really get shit done? No, he's not here right now. I'm here. And yeah, I think Shuri is confused and scared, and she's still angry and has no idea what to do. Except for, look, I just at the very least, we know they're coming. Like we need to prepare. We need to get weapons out. We need to do something. I now have the power of the Black Panther. We can go get him. Like we have a chance to go do this stuff. So at the very least, capture him. But like she hasn't decided that yet. Like she has still, she's going out there at least with the confidence of like, we can do something, but they don't really have that full plan there yet. And I liked this fight scene a lot. I liked how they had these like sonic emitters that got the I keep wanting to call them the Atlanteans because that's what they are in the comics. But the Talokan people up out of the water so that their faces weren't in there. And then immediately once their heads are all out above water, they're just up there like shouting them, and they're climbing up the boat, and they send the Dora Milaje down. It's a great fight scene here. I liked all of this stuff here. To think that like I like all of the stuff that is both technology and not technology in this movie. That's a weird way to say that. I'm not sure exactly how, but like there's a scene earlier on in the movie where they're coming into Wakanda and these like panels rise up, and it's just this thin layer of water in these panels, and then the people start like drumming out this drum beat, and that's what opens up the force field into Wakanda. I was like, that's brilliant. That's awesome. That's so cool. In the same way, they're like, most of Wakanda is on this like giant warship. And you'd think they'd have some kind of railing for the people, like for the Dora Milaje to like hop off the side on that rope to like carry. Nope. They
Yeah.
don't. Instead, they get all of M'Baku and all of his men to just stand there and hold the
Oh,
ropes.
yeah.
Which is great. I loved that scene. Just to see them just stand there and be like, I am an anchor. I am a rock. I am not going to move an inch here. And then all the wire work that they do, just flipping around there, was awesome. Well, what did you think of this fight here?
It's got some excellent stunt work in it. If you didn't like how dark the Talokan city scene was, this is very brightly lit. It's in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
And I think they just take a warship out somewhere in the Atlantic to sort of meet the Talokans halfway. So I think that's the only slightly underwhelming part, is that it's like the physical set piece doesn't have a lot of meaning to it. Like, we don't know this part of the ocean. We don't know this ship. We never even really go inside the ship. It's just, they're just fighting around the outside of it. Yeah. But I do kind of I do like this sort of in the water, out of the water fight that we've got going. And I like that the final battle between Shuri and Namor out there in the desert. Well, we do go inside the boat because they've built that like dehydration chamber. Because they're like, he gets oxygen from the air and from the water.
That's in one of their like airship things. They've specialized it to like suck out the moisture in.
Get him into the suck room. It's the only way we can defeat him.
Yeah. But and then it's that ship that crashes into the desert. Where they're like a football field's length away from the ocean, and that's where they have their big final fight, just one-on-one. Shuri gets stabbed. Looks like she's almost done, but she's like, no, I am not giving up, and she's about to do the final blow. And then it's just like, you know what? I don't think this is the person I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she makes a good decision there.
Yeah, I love when she's just thinking about the Wakandan people in the like they're in the city, and like just flicking back and forth between them and the people she saw in Talokan. Like these citizens are the same. You know, they like sports, they like food, they like making and selling things, they like community, they're helping each other. There's little kids playing around. Like, she thinks about how she doesn't want to see anything happen to the Talokan community, like what has happened in the Wakandan community with it being flooded. Also, wild that we've gotten 2 flooding-based superhero movies this year with this and The Batman. Big year for floods.
Yeah, indeed.
I really enjoy the editing of her flipping back and forth between those things. And like, she sees her mom, and there's a shot of like Namor's mom, which like Shuri wouldn't have seen her. And this is a scene that's ostensibly from her point of view, but maybe we are kind of looking into
visually,
Namor's head. Yeah, or if it's like a sort of an omnipotent thing for the audience, like. It's like a shot of Namor's mother we haven't seen before, where she's on land. She's sort of like leaning down, offering her hand almost like to him, like coming out of the water, which is like a shot that like that wouldn't have happened. Like, she went below water and then lived the rest of her life there. It's this sort of like imaginary vision of something that didn't happen, but it's a really beautiful, evocative shot in there mixed in with everything else. Yeah, and then we see a shot of Queen Ramonda in the ancestral plane, even though she's not connected to the ancestral plane. And again, we don't know if this is, did you reach out? Like, are you connected? Are you so like physically hurt that you are almost slipping into unconsciousness? And when you do that, that's when you access the ancestral plane? Or is it truly like something she's imagining or seeing in a different way, seeing her mother there, reaching out and saying, no, Shuri, show him who you are.
Yeah.
And she chooses to show mercy, or to say, I will make sure nobody ever finds your people. If anybody tries to attack you, like, they will have Wakanda to answer for, but don't come back here again.
Yeah. And so they go back to the boat here, and they're like, everyone stop. We're going to go get shawarma. And
right. It's Namor yelling to his people like, all right, everybody, good game. Pack it up.
we got orange slices in the back, and we got yeah. No, I like that ending. Like it's not, and it is this kind of emotional mirror, and well, not even that, but a yin and yang. I feel like this is in response to Civil War, right? Where it is these two characters. It looks like Cap is about to do the killing blow.
Yeah.
And the struggle between these two characters is that Tony guards his face, thinking that that's what Cap is going to go for.
Yeah.
Like he would ever go for that.
Yes.
But below. But then, yeah, he ends up just hitting the heart there, right? And like it's this defusing the situation in a way that these characters thought they knew one another but did not. And then here's a in response to that of here's these two characters almost in the exact same situation, except they didn't know one another, but they feel like they do. They have that, like we said, that like kinship, that familial, just your people are like my people.
Yeah.
In all sorts of different ways. They just want to eat. They just want to play sports.
Yeah.
They don't want to have to think about all of it. They don't want to be led by these terrible people, right? That go out and are vengeful and murderous and stuff like that. Like we just kind of want to do our thing.
That's a nice comparison to that final battle in Civil War. I think for a movie that is so insular to itself and doesn't have a lot of larger MCU connections, like it's like we said earlier, it's like if you know the basic outline of Infinity War, like even if you haven't seen Val before, you're going to figure out who she is. Like this is really so much about the Black Panther section of the story. But there are parts that are these sort of echoes to other MCU stories. We've got the scene where Riri flies too far up, and it's very much like that scene in Iron Man. We've got the sort of parallel to Right. We've got the parallel to No Way Home, where your female caretaker, this literal or metaphorical parent in your life dies, and you are driven to near murder against the person you blame her death on, even though that's never the person you were before. We've got this moment like in Civil War and the very beginning of the movie when Shuri's trying to make a new heart-shaped herb, and one of her scientists tells her, you should really go be with your brother. And she's like, no, I have to keep working. Like that made me think of Peter Quill at the very beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy, where he doesn't want to reach out and hold his mom's hand. Like, I like this movie is so successful at being absolutely everything it needs to be and not really, and like having the space where it doesn't need to serve a lot of grander MCU things, but also having these very poignant echoes to these unrelated movies that came before.
Yeah, absolutely. So that kind of clears up most of the main movie. Was that they just kind of figure things out, go back home, do all of that stuff. They send Riri back home with a brand new. I mean, it's still the same car, but it's been restored. It is pristine and shiny. The paint job looks immaculate.
She can't keep her Big Hero 6 suit that she built there in Wakanda, but she gets to go back to MIT and build another suit in the TV show.
Yeah, she now has all sorts of inspirations that she can pull from with that. And I think Shuri her journey's not complete. Even though she spared Namor's life, she's still trying to decide what kind of leader she's going to be to her people, as well as if she's even gonna be a leader to her people, because we do get another scene out on that cliff of
Warrior Falls.
They can challenge for the throne, and Baku shows up and is like, yeah, she's not going to be here, but I'm here and I'm challenging for the throne. So does that mean there's no contest and he is now the king of Wakanda?
It definitely seems like he did that with her blessing. Like, I can really understand where she's like, I don't want to rule, at least right now. I can't be in that space. I need to go away. Like, I need to just chill out at Nakia's for a couple weeks, or longer. I really understand that. But also, I have always been curious, like, are there any like cousins, like, besides Killmonger? Is there any other distant relatives of the Wakandan royal family who could show up? Like, we've spent so much time with this immediate family unit. Like, does Ramonda have any siblings? Does she have nieces and nephews? Even if they wouldn't inherit the throne, like, do you have cousins? Like, who is the rest of your family? I really am curious about the extended Wakandan royal family, if there is any.
Yeah, or if
but I understand that might be like way too much to get into.
If these other like council members have family members that would want to challenge and do stuff like that, would be interesting to know or think about. But that's kind of where the main movie leaves us. However, we do get a mid-credits scene here.
Well, the movie ends with she goes to visit Nakia when she's back in Haiti, where she's been like headmistress of a school. Seems like a good environment for her. She looks very happy there. Beautiful school full of plants. I liked getting to visit it. But Shuri shows up there, and she's going to finally do the ritual where she burns her funeral clothes. And it's a really lovely scene, and she has all these memories of T'Challa, and I understand why metatextually it's a big montage of T'Challa, but given the other losses in her life, from a character standpoint, I would have liked at least one or two shots of Ramonda and T'Chaka in there as well. Like, I understand this is us saying goodbye to Chadwick Boseman, but I felt like Shuri is mourning other people besides her brother. Like, just any picture of like the family together, I really would have liked that to be included. That's my one little nitpick. Just remember your mother also in this montage, please.
Absolutely, yeah. That makes sense. I mean, that might be the next step, right? Of just like whenever Black Panther 3 comes out, or whenever, because I think they're also doing a Disney Plus series somewhere in Wakanda and around that stuff. So that, that might be part of that stuff where she is like, all right, I dealt with the death of my brother. Let's move on to my mom. Like, let's deal with that stuff, right?
Yeah. One thing at a time. I definitely understand that. Yeah, like she never completed her grieving process for T'Challa. I do understand where she's like, I have to think about one family member at a time. I'm okay with what happened to my father. I can't move on to my mother until I figure things out with my brother. Gosh, that's so sad. And the end credits are her clothes burning, like these really tight close-ups where you're like inside the fabric as it burns through to pieces. It's beautiful. Like, really thematically, it is one of my favorite end credit scenes the MCU has done. I really love the visuals.
Rihanna's song on top of that, the whole thing was just beautiful. It was great. I liked it a lot. But yes, the mid-credit scene here. I think in the theater that I was in, I feel like people were expecting more. That they weren't super satisfied with the mid-credits scene, and then we stayed for the like all of the credits.
Oh yeah, I always do. Yeah,
I knew that there was not anything after that, but was still looking for the like Black Panther will return, right?
I love to see that every time, even if I know it's going to be there. Like, it gives me some peace of mind to sit there and physically see so and so will return at the very end of a movie. I stay for that every time.
But I felt like my theater was kind of just like, that was it, really. I was like,
I know,
come on, you guys, like, this was that mid credits one was a great scene. I liked it.
I can understand outsiders, more casual fans saying like, oh, there's always one at the end, right? But also like people who are more in the know, knowing that this is the final thing in phase 4. Maybe there's some big kickoff just ending phase 4. I'm not counting the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, which is just like the whipped cream and cherry on top of phase 4. But also, I know they were talking about how there was only this scene in screenings, but there were examples of past MCU movies where certain post-credit scenes were removed from early press screenings and were shown for the first time when the movie was officially released. So like maybe there's something really huge that they are saving for the official release. So I can understand people waiting around to see if there is another thing. But this was beautiful. I like that it is like it's got plot implications, but that's really not what you're thinking about. This is a purely emotional hit here at the end in the end credits scene. And this is where I was crying.
Yeah, and it's understandable too. So Shuri, of course, is in the middle of burning those clothes when Nakia walks up behind her to check in on her, and she is holding the hand of a young boy who's about 5 years old and introduces Shuri to her son. And her son happens to be the next heir to the Wakandan throne. He introduces himself as Toussaint, which I guess historically Toussaint Louverture, I'm not sure how to say that last name, was a former slave who led the Haitian Revolution in the 18th century. So he has a namesake here with that name. But then he says, that's not my real name, though. And he says, my Wakandan name is T'Challa. And I was like, oh.
Prince T'Challa, son of King T'Challa. This really got to me. Like, it's, I think, the perfect finale to this movie. I think it's a really lovely tribute. I think entirely original. Like, I was hearing, like, T'Challa has never had children in the comics. He's never gotten to that point.
There's one like animated movie like Next Avengers, right? Where but there's been no history with that there. So,
and it is something I wondered watching the first Black Panther movie, looking at him and Nakia, like, what level is your relationship at? How does the king court? Is there some ritual where it's like, oh no, you don't have sex until marriage if you're the king? Or like, are you boning? Nice to get the confirmation. Yes, they were boning. Perhaps a very petty, shallow question to be asking, but I was asking it, and I am very grateful to have an answer. And
doth the king bone? Right?
Doth the king bone? But the look on Shuri's face, like Aunt May leaves, another aunt is here. An aunt persists in the MCU. Yep. I'm an aunt. You know, my brother's much older than I am, which is something in the story I've always related to. I do like that there is a sizable age difference between T'Challa and Shuri. That's how it is in my family. I don't see that a lot in media. These just like big age gaps between kids. I really like that. And so like, you know, having a brother that's much older than I am, he had a kid when he was pretty young. I've been an aunt since I was 8 years old. Like, I remember, I just thought about when my nephew was that age. And like now my brother's got a daughter. I've got a niece who's this same age. You know, she's the same age as Toussaint. She's like 6. And I don't know, just like how much they lift my spirits and how much, like, no matter how bad of a mood I am in about anything, like visiting her will fix it. Like, this is absolutely what Shuri needs. This isn't going to fix all of her problems, but she's in such a deep, dark hole. This is the ray of light she needs. Like, it's so... I think it's a beautiful addition to the franchise, to the larger narrative within the story and outside of the story, honoring T'Challa and honoring Chadwick. And I'm very happy for Shuri to have that. I related to it. Yeah, I cried ant tears. I cried ant feelings.
Yeah. It is this like happy, joyous moment that is, she's also kind of in disbelief. Like, what? He had a son 5 years ago?
Right.
How did I
Yeah.
not know
Well,
about
yeah,
this,
so
right?
yeah, so it seems like she was pregnant at the time of the snap. And maybe I don't know if she had already I think she left shortly after the snap, being like, I don't know if they are dead. I don't know what happened. Now I am carrying the child that is the one heir to the Wakandan throne. I don't want him to be born into being the one heir of the Wakandan throne. I want him to
Right.
live a peaceful, normal life, but like know about Wakanda in a way that like Killmonger never got to have. His dad told him about Wakanda, but it was this far off, distant place. You know,
Right.
it seems like Toussaint's got a more like a more healthy connection with his homeland and with his legacy. And I like the first thing Shuri asks is, "Did my mother get to meet him?" And she did. And oh, it's very sweet. It's so well done. That kid is very cute.
Yep.
I love it. I couldn't have imagined a better ending. I don't think anybody saw this coming, and it was the perfect thing to give us. Absolutely.
Cool.
Best way to end this movie.
It was good. I enjoyed it a lot. But yeah, I am excited to see what happens down the road for Black Panther. If Shuri is gonna keep the suit, all of that. Here's the one other thing that we have not talked about in this yet. This is the one thing that I thought was actually bad in the film. So bad that I blacked it out in my thing. That suit that Okoye gets, I'm with her. That thing is ugly. That thing was awful.
I don't like the look of it, but then I saw a panel from the comic, and it seems like that is kind of how it looks in the comic. But I imagine that the next time we see her, maybe with Shuri gone, she like goes back to those other scientists in the lab, and she's like, "Can you make this over?
Fix this?
I don't want to look like this anymore." Shuri's not around. She won't yell at you. I'm your general. Change this costume.
I think but yeah, that was the one thing. I had a great time with this. Looking forward to what's next, especially as we go into phase 5. And I think right now phase 4 has really felt like just this exhalation of tension and pressure, as well as just kind of sending these tendrils out into other areas we've yet to explore, younger characters that might be explored later on, buildings of potential new teams out there and stuff like that. And it's going to be interesting to see where the MCU goes next, and to see if they really will get people in. Like, it's the Avengers, but it's not all the ones you remember exactly. It's going to be new ones. Is that going to have the same punch? Is that going to have the same staying power as this first set did here? So it's going to be an interesting ride for sure.
Yeah, phase 4 has been very, very transitory. Like, it's needed to be so many different things, like going through these transitions of, we're on Disney Plus now we have these shows, we have these pandemic delays that we're dealing with. We're like closing the door on certain things. We're starting a lot of new things. It's been kind of a grab bag in a way that I don't really mind. Like, we did so much exploring and trying new things. I really like how bold this phase was able to be. Even if it wasn't always the most cohesive, like, I'll take that. That's okay. It's very understandable. And I think we're in a very good footing for the start of phase 5. I had to tell you, it was so nice to get to see the Quantumania trailer on the big screen. I loved it. That's going to be a great time.
Absolutely. Well, there you go. I think that is kind of it for our thoughts and reactions and spoilers and all that good stuff for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Melissa, do you have any kind of final thoughts?
One final thing. Loved the synths coming into the score. Excellent use of synths. Way to go, Ludwig.
Good stuff. Well, with that, Melissa, where can the people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkiewit. That's WILKYWIT, and listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities. This is a show I co-host with my younger brother, Jams, and we talk about weird old kid shows you feel like only you remember. To acknowledge the passing of another great superhero, we haven't recorded it yet, but we're going to do an episode on Batman the Animated Series in honor of Kevin Conroy.
Yeah, tragic news that we got this
lot to deal with in
week,
1
man.
week.
Yeah, so if you guys want to stay up to date with me, I'm at Yo Kyle Springer. And of course, if you'd like to stay up to date with all of the stuff that we do here at the Whatnauts, we are at the Whatnauts on Twitter. So please go like, share, and subscribe. You guys know the deal with all of that. If you are watching this on YouTube, we got a couple other videos right over here that you guys should go check out, and that would help us out a ton. Yeah, this has been number 93 of the Whatnauts Reactor Core. We will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.